Good morning, one and all. I am Riyajit. I am here to present the theme or dimensions of diaspora in Kiran Desai's novel Inheritance of Loss. Now, let me just give a brief overview on the concerns underlying diasporic fiction, what the term diaspora actually means. Now, contemporary literature exhibits diversity in terms of the plethora of themes and subjects. There's been a huge proliferation with regard to texts and themes. In the aftermath of colonization, we can see that there has been a shift to the concerns of post-colonial studies, subaltern studies, and diasporic studies. So what are these texts attempting to do? We can see that these texts are an attempt to translate the experiences of the marginalized and the voiceless, actually. So by doing this, it expands the horizons of literature. Now, what is diaspora? The term diaspora literally means a scattering. It is usually associated with the concept of dispersion of seeds. And this term diaspora carries within it the ambiguous status of being an ambassador and a refugee. Now, the various categories of the word include expatriate, immigrant, exile, etc. Now, what are the common themes underlying diasporic fiction? Yearning for home, double consciousness, consciousness of being, alienation at being considered an outsider, and then there's this question of dislocation and relocation. So these are the major themes. These are the prominent themes that govern diasporic fiction. Now, William Safran gives an explanation of the definition of diaspora to include several expatriate minority communities. And the major features that can be seen in these diasporic communities include: 1. They are removed. There is a sort of removal or a dislocation, relocation or a relegation, we can say, from the center to the periphery. Second, there's been a collective memory, a sort of collective memory regarding the homeland abounds within the psyche of the diasporic communities. Now, the illusion of returning home someday, this term someday is very important, and this illusion always resides within the psyche of diasporic sensibility. And fourth, finally, they believe that they would not be completely accepted into the host culture. They know that, they realize that, and as a result, they remain partially isolated from it. Now, let me just give a brief overview on Kiran Desai. She is the daughter of Anita Desai, and she herself was an immigrant. So therein we can see her influence or the major force that guided her perhaps to write the work. However, we can say that although she is aware of her Anglo-Indian inheritance, she does not let her Western influence dilute her writings. So we can say that she is perhaps attempting to carve a niche for herself, can say. Now, let me just give you a brief outline on the novel, the major concerns underlying Kiran Desai's novel, The Inheritance of Loss, the major themes governing this work. The novel, Desai's novel, The Inheritance of Loss, is set in the backdrop of the political insurgency of the Nepalese Gokaland movement. It is set in Kalimpong. The story intertwines the narratives of Biju, Jemubai, Sai, and it epitomizes. The major issue is the plight of the immigrants. The novel attempts to epitomize the plight of the immigrants within and outside India as well. And it deals with the major issues of diasporic experiences, cultural hybridity, identity crisis, the idea of home and identity. Now, these are the common themes underlying this work. Now what I'm attempting to do is I want to explore the diasporic dimensions in 4 major characters in this work, that is Sai, Gyan, Biju and Jemubai. And I will also give a brief outline I attempt to evaluate the diasporic dimensions in the characters, in minor characters such as the cook, Lola and Noni as well. Now let us begin. Okay, so now let us look at the diasporic dimensions in the character of Sai. Now who is Sai? Sai is a 17-year-old convent educated girl. She has become an orphan and has therefore relocated to stay with her grandfather Jemubai. Now her affinity towards western influences can be seen as a result of her convent education in Darjeeling. Now this western influence, or this affinity towards western influence, has left a terrible consequence in the life of Sai. There are these lines: theirs was a solitude so profound they might never encounter another of their tribe. These lines catalogue the alienation and isolation felt on her own native soil. It can be seen as a product, or she can be seen as a product of diasporic and anchorless existence. And also this western influences makes it difficult for her to foster relationships or cement any valuable relationships, and she is a product of hybrid identities. This itself is evocative of a rootlessness, and it has overtones of diasporic sensibility. And Sai can be perhaps seen as a reflection of Desai herself. Desai too was anglicized in convent education. And also in terms of her relationship with Cook, she is aware of the gap that separates them due to their class and cultural differences, but the only sort of solace and acceptance that she finds is from the cook. The language, culture and thinking, all these create a gap between the otherwise two souls who are just yearning for love and acceptance in a very volatile space. Now, the force of westernization, the resulting cultural differences, all have severely hampered her ability to foster relationships. It was that of a superficial, ephemeral relationship. It was never to snowball into anything worthy, actually. And also, her appearance of western influence and a place of education, that is Darjeeling, itself underlines the idea of split identities, wherein although she has not gone to the west, she still occupies a sort of diasporic existence as a result of a western influence. And this migrant or diasporic identities are based on this new forms of thinking about identity as fluidity or hybridity. Identity is sort of thought of as fluid and hybrid, especially diasporic, with regard to diasporic identities. And also she is a product of hybrid identities, as I said. And this itself is evocative of a rootlessness, and this has overtones of diasporic sensibility. Now her idea of love, that is totally different, in that she believes that it sprouts from the ache and anticipation rather than in the emotion itself. That itself alludes to the abandonment and loneliness she felt owing to her parents' migration to Russia. And also this, by bringing in this aspect, Desai also attempts to underline the impact of globalization and migration that has severely hampered her ability to foster relationships. And the part and parcel of her life has been anticipation and ache. This has severely hampered even the emotional growth of Sai too. And this anticipation and ache has been adversely translated into her life in terms of relationship with parents, in terms of relationship with Gyan as well, and a sense of disillusionment, trauma and fragmentation has created a sort of psychological void in her life. And this creation of an emotional void is, we can see when we critically examine, is similar to that of Biju as well. He too is unable to cement any sort of valuable relationships as a result of his fragmented existence in America. And she has no moorings, as is evident in the case of her communication with parents. She struggles with issues of dislocation and relocation, and we can see that her communication with her parents is through letters. And Russia, the diasporic space occupied by her parents, can neither be referred to as home, nor can a convent education led in Darjeeling can be called so. So she too struggles with issues of dislocation and relocation. And the baggage that is this is a significant motive in Kiran Desai's Inheritance of Loss, wherein the baggage that she carries is representative of all individuals who occupy a diasporic and transnational existence. This perhaps signifies the emotional baggage too. Maybe they are burdened to carry this emotional baggage due to their exilic existence. In the case of Sai too, she is unable to establish the roots of home. She's constantly on the move. She occupies a sort of anchorless and marginal existence. As a result, she is unable to establish the roots of home anywhere, either in Darjeeling nor in Kalimpong as well. This home, what does the idea of home signify actually? Home signifies security and acceptance, and this Sai's constant search for acceptance, love and understanding, all these stems from the lack of roots. In fact, it is because of this that she experiences a sort of homelessness or unbelonging. And also the love that blossomed between Gyan and Sai. Now that is the only sort of love from which she gains any sort of acceptance. Although she possesses a sort of fractured identity stemming from her Western influences, it is only with Gyan that she could finally fit in and be herself. And but at the same time, we can see that Gyan is a painful reminder of her own estranged existence. This makes it difficult for them to exist. This divergence in cultural differences makes it difficult for them both to exist. And also, thus by presenting the various dimensions of the diasporic exilic existence through the portrayal of Sai, Desai attempts to say that diaspora, that home can be a space of diaspora too. Which can be seen in the portrayal of Sai, she who has never been in the West but still occupies a sort of marginal and liminal position. She can be seen as a remnant of colonialism and is angerless, devoid of identity, who is struggling to find any sort of love and acceptance. So that is with Sai. Now let us look at the diasporic dimensions in the character of Gyan. Now, who is Gyan? Gyan is the Nepalese tutor of Sai, who later joins the Gokaland movement. However, in the case of Gyan, the curse is his own Goka identity. In fact, he struggles to adapt to this strange identity, that is this Goka identity. This creates this inability to acclimatize to this identity. That makes it impossible for him to adapt, and this sort of creates a diasporic sensibility in his own land. The political turmoil and clamour owing to the Goka land, this creates tension within his psyche. It sort of creates an angerless and marginal existence which he feels even in his own land, in his own home soil. He makes this tension makes him feel out of place even in his own home soil. And this propagation of opportunities and privileges make home space the propagation of opportunities and privileges make home space unbelonging or very strange for many of the characters. It leads to a loss of self-esteem, making it a sort of creating a sort of anchorless and estranged existence. This further worsens the situation of the immigrants or migrants, because the characters feel displaced at home. Home becomes a sort of space of diaspora, right? So it creates that the creation of home as a space of diaspora itself creates a lot of problems, especially double consciousness and leaving behind a psychological void. Gyan can be seen as Biju's second shadow, perhaps. If we closely examine Gyan, and there are striking similarities between Gyan and Biju. Gyan can be seen as Biju's second shadow, wherein with regard to the fact that Gyan faces dislocation and displacement in his own home soil. This reinforces the idea that diasporic sensibilities can be created even within the home space. It is not just that is what Desai is attempting to underline, that diasporic sensibilities can be created even within the home space. Home becomes a space of diaspora. And this, in the case of Gyan, he is involved in a continuous struggle to keep his identity alive. Amidst all these hostile forces created by the Gokaland movement, he is struggling to stay afloat. He's fraught with numerous existential questions with regard to his identity, his meaninglessness. All these continue to repress him, and also he's at the same time he's coerced into adhering the collective identity of the insurgency, and therefore we can say that he is unable to carve a niche for himself. He assimilates the collective identity of the insurgency and he is forced to become one with it. So therefore when we can see that things are never easy in the case of Gyan. He realizes that he does not find at home with himself. He is forced into adhering to the collective identity. So he does not feel at home within himself. Home has become a sort of a space of diaspora for him, and he struggles to stay afloat amidst all these hostile forces. This is the diasporic dimensions in the character of Gyan. Now what about Biju? Biju, who is Biju? Biju is an illegal immigrant in America. He is hopscotching between various restaurants, undertaking menial tasks, and also this constant hunt for green card and the associated difficulties faced by these illegal immigrants. That itself is suggestive of their marginal existence, their anchorless existence, or their constant hyphenated existence, we can say. And also, like all diasporic narratives, in this novel too, there's a propagation of, not propagation, Desai is attempting to highlight the false rosy visions, ideals or ideal visions, rosy ideal visions created by this idea of American dream. In the character of Cook. Cook has rosy visions of life in America. He harbors these and he encourages his son to translate them into reality. And also the real issue here is in the ingrained false belief of luxury. There's this false belief of luxury propagated, and as a result their mindscapes, the migrants' mindscapes are teeming with American dreams. So here Desai has successfully portrayed the gap created between the dreams and the harsh reality of life abroad. And Jasbir Jain calls his condition as caught between two cultures. Here, this immigrant or the migrant or the individual, he is in a constant struggle in recreating memories and resorting to history. He is forced to recreate a version of his otherwise home. And also this idea of home is is a prominent motif on diasporic narratives. In the case of Biju, we can say that there's a nostalgia for homeland, and this idea of nostalgia for homeland and the attempts to make a home in the host land is a cardinal motif underlying diasporic narratives. Home plays an important motif in diasporic writings, especially with regard to those who are constantly on the move. Also, the dialectics of the home and an individual, wherein one forms the other and vice versa, is a common theme underlying diasporic narratives. And we can say that home continually remains a contested space. In the case of Biju too, his idea of home actually it's a recreation of his memories. An ideal space which is unaffected by the political turbulence of the Gokaland movement. And when he returns home, however, this is not the case. When he returns home, he finds a politically charged atmosphere at his own home. And Desai, in doing so, echoes the migrant search for home and identity in an isolated and estranged land. And in Biju's case, he does not intend to make himself at home or acquiesce to the ways of living in the West. He chooses to return to his roots. He sees this as the only way out for him. And also, as a result of his arrival home, we can say that he feels everything clicking into place. He feels at home at once, and he could also feel the shame and weight of humiliation dissolving. Then, however, this is not the case with regard to scores of illegal immigrants abroad. They continue to labor on alien soil, no matter, despite the circumstances, we can say. And also, There are instances of cultural interpolation too, as can be seen in Indian Girls, who there's an episode of Indian Girls in Biju's narrative, who these Indian girls fluctuate between Indian customs and the adoption of Western tastes and mannerisms. And also Edward Said, with regard to the nostalgia for homeland, Edward Said says that once you have lost your homeland, it cannot be recovered as paradise. This is what he says. So this is the trauma underlying the diasporic sensibility. They remain in a plethora of dreams molded and shaped by them, and also Biju, living on a foreign soil, is unable to adapt to this estranged existence. And also memory is the fundamental part of identity formation, and we can say that he lives without history on such a foreign soil, and therefore he is forced to recreate memories of his homeland so as to survive in such a hostile place. And also the fact that Biju's narrative starts with the phrase "all the way in America," that itself suggests the physical distance and the associated issues of what can we say, this dislocation and relocation. And also a migrant is in a constant state of flux. That is the major feature of diasporic sensibility. He is in a constant state of flux. He is a constantly moving entity carrying bundles and boxes. That itself highlights their ephemeral and superficial existence. They merely remain on the surface, never to cause any significant change. At the same time, they continue to entertain lots of dreams, a plethora of dreams regarding his return to homeland. And also we can say that the migrant remains as a creature of the edge, or the peripheral man, in the words of Rushdie. And also in the case of Biju, we see that he hopes that someday, that word is very important within the psyche of diasporic sensibility, someday he would make enough money so that he would return to his home place and live in peace with his father. He all imagines this, all these dreams. His mindscape is teeming with such dreams. He is unable to translate, however we find that he is unable to translate them into reality. And also we see that he communicates through letters with his father, and they are unable to share the intimacies underlying a father-son relationship, and distance has become very long that they continually remain distant, and their mode of communication becomes very monotonous and mechanical, never able to bridge any sort of differences. And also the case of Biju's restaurant and the multicultural ethnicities teeming within the restaurant, that itself also is indicative of the immigrants, of the huge scores of immigrants that migrate in pursuit of this ideal American dream. And also the racial prejudices that he faced in his workplace, that also is indicative of the alienation and the marginalization that he faced in a hostile world. He is mocked at about his race and identity, and also like many other illegal immigrants, he too leads a very transitory existence. And also in the case of Harish Hari too, he confronts conflicting identities. Like Harish Hari, he too is a man caught between two worlds. And also Biju can be said to inhabit the margins, actually, acquiescing himself to the periphery, never to occupy the center. And also he's fraught with identity crisis. He's caught in a limbo as well, and he attempts to negotiate his identity and individuality in this increasingly foreign space. And also we can see this in terms with regard to his distrust towards Pakistanis and Muslims, which itself stems from his Indian ways of thinking, right? And also, but his meeting with Said and the intimacy that he shares with him, that shakes his inherent core beliefs and values. And also we can say that this can be referred to as a sort of a cultural shock, wherein the diasporic sensibility and undergoes tremendous trauma and disillusionment regarding what and what not to adapt. Is in a sort of dilemma that itself creates, or that itself breeds a lot of fragmented identities, disillusionment and anger, and becomes the cause for an anchorless existence. This is, and also such all these can be seen in the workings of the mind, especially in case of the psyche of diasporic sensibility. It is manifested in the form of fragmented and ruptured thoughts. That is the case with Biju. Now let us see the diasporic dimensions within the character of Jemubai. Now Jemubai is a product of colonization and racial discrimination, and he struggles to maintain his identity and individuality in an increasingly politically charged atmosphere in Kalimpong. And also the racial prejudices and the resulting painful humiliation that he had to endure during his days in Cambridge had taken a severe toll on his psyche. All this has created a sort of rupture and has left behind a psychological void. Um, his own identity and individuality had been subjected to severe shame, and we can see instances wherein he is forced to hide his identity and individuality, and he is coerced into masking his own roots and his self. He covers his dark skin with powder and masks his Indian smell with a whiff of cologne. So his formidable demeanor, also we can say that is not an aspect of his mental makeup. Rather, it's a coping mechanism that acts as an affront, we can say, to his own insecurities and vulnerabilities. And his fixed gaze and the introverted chin, all this shows that he has not traveled far back in time. Rather, he is stuck in his constant loop of memories. And also, however, we can say that the memories that he relieves are not happy ones, are not special or happy ones. Rather, they are painful memories that continue to haunt him despite his physical distancing from the West. And Sai and Gyan are his own reflections. They cruelly remind him of his own trauma, of his own pain and humiliation that he had to endure. And also the movement, when we see in all diasporic narratives, the movement from the known to the alien, though deliberate at times, has a traumatic effect on the psyche of the diasporas. Also, in case of his relationship with his parents, it is tainted by his Western influences. He remains humiliated by his traditional roots. And also the love for his father is mingled with pity and shame. He asserts this painful truth in his narratives. We can say that he asserts this painful truth that he would never experience unblemished and untainted love anymore. And also this he's looked down upon because of his race and identity, and his skill of studying is the only baggage that he can carry to the West. Now that is ironic. The only thing he can carry to the West is his skill of studying and not his identity, although both are closely tied, we can say. And also he immerses in rigorous studying in an attempt to establish his roots, but as he tries to prove himself or prove his worth, he faces even further marginalization. And as a result of rather than assimilating this collective identity of the West, he sort of effaces and negates himself, his own self. And also this the baggage of Sai. See, I said before that the motive of Sai is very prominent within diasporic narratives, especially in this novel. And the baggage of Sai acts as a reminder of his own anchorless transnational and diasporic existence. He continues to battle his own insecurities, trying to relate to the new land and trying to assimilate or trying to smother his innate self, and at the same time assimilating the collective identity of the host culture. And also this baggage signifies the emotional jet lag that pulls them to more than one world. Or also the emotional burden that they're constantly forced to carry as a result of their painful diasporic existence. And also we can say that he is suspended. He continues to be in a limbo, and he sort of hangs midway like the mythological Trishangu, and he is never to establish his roots. And also the loneliness, also the alienation and loneliness that he had to endure, this loneliness becomes a part of him. It abides within him and is entwined within him. And also the attempts that he took to turn himself into a shadow are indicative of the process of othering, we can say, wherein on account of his loneliness, on account of his race, he is shunned off and is marginalized from the mainstream society. And also the loneliness and the complete alienation found fertile soil within his mind as a result of the experiences of the racial prejudices. And also his rigorous means of cleansing himself can also be seen as a sort of fear for what he would become. and the painful, and also he gives a painful account of the process of acclimatizing himself to this collective identity of the host culture. And also he sees Sai as a reflection of himself. At the same time, he is painfully haunted by his own memories, and as a result, he separates himself from her. And also, Desai attempts to highlight the colonial ideas left behind in the aftermath of colonization. Through the life of Jemubai, it is from in the life of Jemubai we see that it is from a school education that he found in himself the ability to rise above his peasantry class, and it is from his father, or it is his father who has sown the seeds in Jemubai to migrate to England. And also here we see a downtrodden family from the lower ranks of society sees migration as the only sort of opportunity, or as the only sort of means of achieving higher status in the society. And also in terms of his relationship with his wife Nimi is also significant by highlighting the fact that it is by highlighting the fragmented existence in a diasporic space. This his relationship with his wife is suggestive of his fragmented existence. Years of experience of hatred and revenge, hatred, the rage that he had to endure, he vents it all on his wife. And perhaps Nimi belongs to a better family, and in terms of social ranks and appearance, she belongs to a much better position than Jemubai, and this perhaps reminds him of his own insecurities, perhaps, and also the prejudices that he experienced. All these infuriates him, and he resorts to violence as the only sort of means to perhaps put him in a position of superiority. And the alienation that he suffered, he inflicts on her as well, and she therefore ends up as a reflection of his same self, of his same fragmented and disillusioned self. And also he builds artificial constructs inherited from the West, and his mindscape is built on lies in order to maintain his resolve. And also the truths and his inherent identity keeps creeping in. Towards the end we see that wherein he doubts whether he prays or by doing or by praying to God he is perhaps undoing his education, or perhaps is retreating back to his original inherent deep rooted superstitions and traditions. And also he feels alienated in his own soil, in his own land, and this leads to a loss of self-esteem, loss of his moorings as well, which owing this perhaps explains the reason for his anchorless existence. And we can conclude that through the portrayal, or through the diasporic dimensions, through the portrayal of Jemubai, we can conclude that we can infer that the diasporic sensibility is ridden with conflicts, disillusionment, and double consciousness. It is never to escape the trauma and such trauma and torment of the psyche. And now let us examine the diasporic dimensions in the character of Cook. Now that is Biju's father. The Cook actually regards Biju's life with high regard. He can be seen as boasting towards people, wherein he says that Biju leads a very prosperous life in America. And also in the case of Biju's father, who entertains false notions about his sons living abroad, he is ignorant to understand the harsh realities underlying an anchorless and alienated life led abroad, and he preserves the letters which are tokens. The letters, that is, I said in the Biju, in case of Biju, they both communicate through letters, and he preserves these letters which are tokens of their disintegrating relationship as a means to exhibit the glory of living in America. And also at the same time we can see that he possesses a sort of liminal position in terms of his allure towards the West. He kind of harbors American dreams about his son living abroad, but at the same time he is skeptical about the authenticity of the West as well. As a result, he resorts or he clings harder to superstitious beliefs. We see. We can also say that he partially occupies a sort of diasporic existence in terms of lack of acceptance from Jammu by too, and he fails to associate with the Western influence and therefore gains a sort of transitory existence. That is the case of Cook. Now, in the case of Lola and Noni, they represent the cosmopolitan and the quintessence of the West. They see themselves as the cultural superior sisters of Kalimpong, and we can see this. Their Anglophile tendencies and their affinities towards the West can be seen in terms of their love for Jane Austen novels, their affinity towards English food and lifestyle. All these show the Anglophile tendencies and the affinity towards the West. So in fact, we see that food is a matter of social and cultural standing, wherein they continually remain devoted to English culinary styles. And also we can infer that here Desai perhaps attempts to portray or underline the fact that food becomes an artifact or a motive that carries cultural and social standing and superiority as well. Now, with regard to certain stylistic nuances in the novel and how these stylistic nuances attempt to translate the diasporic dimensions within the novel. Now, the novel is written in the form of multiple narratives moving back and forth, and this alludes to the perhaps to the fragmentary and disrupted psyche of the diasporic sensibility. And also there are certain instances wherein especially with regard to Biju's narratives, wherein there are fragmented sentences which echo them, or which is perhaps a manifestation of his own thoughts or of his own fragmented thoughts. So all this allude to the fragmented and disrupted psyche of the diasporic sensibility. Now let me conclude. The Inheritance of Laws concurrently tells the story of two kinds of diasporas, that of the undocumented, exploited immigrants living in New York, and at the same time an aging elitist professionals settled post-retirement in Kalimpong. And both the diasporas face challenges. Desai has intricately woven the issues of mingling of East and West, the issue of fragmented identities, identity crisis. All these are very well thoroughly covered within the work. And we can say that the world of diasporic writing is fragmented. The characters often live in the world of nostalgia. All these characters, they're centered on a sort of homesickness. They all bear the pains of uprooting and rerouting, and the struggle to maintain the difference between oneself and the new unfriendly surroundings. All these are prominent within diasporic narratives, and Desai has poignantly portrayed the harsh realities of life led by migrants both within and outside the diasporic space. And at the same time, she attempts to underline their struggles to find love and acceptance in a very politically charged space of Kalimpong. Thank you.